Have you ever imagined a wall so massive that it stretches for hundreds of kilometers, not to keep people out, but to hold back the ocean itself? It sounds like science fiction. But it's real. And almost nobody outside Japan knows it exists. This is the story of one of the largest engineering projects on Earth, a 400-kilometer wall built against one of nature's most powerful forces. But why did Japan spend billions of dollars building it? And is it actually enough to stop the next giant tsunami? To understand the answer, we have to go back to a day that changed Japan forever. On March 11, 2011, the ground beneath northeastern Japan began to shake. At first, it felt like another earthquake. Japan experiences thousands of earthquakes every year, and its buildings are designed to survive them. People remained surprisingly calm. But this earthquake was different. It kept going. For nearly 6 terrifying minutes, the earth shook with incredible force. The earthquake measured magnitude 9.0, making it one of the most powerful ever recorded in human history. Its energy was so enormous that it shifted the seafloor by several dozen meters. That sudden movement displaced an unimaginable amount of seawater. Within minutes, tsunami warnings spread across the country. Sirens echoed through coastal towns. Emergency broadcasts urged everyone to evacuate immediately. But time was running out. Out in the Pacific Ocean, something almost invisible was racing toward Japan. Unlike ordinary waves created by wind, tsunami waves carry the energy of the entire ocean. In deep water, they can travel at speeds close to those of a commercial jet airliner. Ships far offshore often don't even notice them passing beneath. But as these waves approach land, everything changes. The water slows down. The wave compresses, and all that energy rises upward into a towering wall of water. Along Japan's northeastern coastline, the ocean suddenly pulled back. Fishing boats were left sitting on the exposed seabed. People watched in confusion. Some even walked closer to the shore. Then, they saw it. A dark line stretching across the horizon, growing larger every second. Within moments, that line became a mountain of water. Entire neighborhoods disappeared almost instantly. Cars, buses, fishing vessels, bridges, homes, and factories were swept away as though they weighed nothing. The tsunami pushed miles inland. Nothing in its path could stop it. In some places, the waves reached heights of more than 40 meters. The force was beyond imagination. Concrete buildings were ripped apart. Steel structures twisted under the pressure. Massive ships were carried onto city streets. Thousands of people had only minutes to escape. Many never had the chance. By the time the water finally retreated, entire communities had vanished. More than 18,000 people were dead or missing. Hundreds of thousands lost their homes. The economic damage reached hundreds of billions of dollars. It became one of the costliest natural disasters in recorded history. And the disaster didn't end there. The tsunami also struck the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. The waves flooded emergency generators that powered the cooling systems. Without electricity, the reactors began to overheat. Hydrogen explosions damaged several reactor buildings. Radioactive material was released into the surrounding area. Entire towns had to be evacuated. The nuclear accident became the worst since Chernobyl. For Japan, it was a national trauma unlike anything seen in generations. People across the country began asking a painful question. If one tsunami could cause this much destruction, how could they prevent it from ever happening again? Japan had already spent decades building seawalls along many parts of its coastline. Some were several meters high. They had protected towns from smaller tsunamis for years. But in 2011, many of those walls were simply overwhelmed. The waves climbed over them. Some structures collapsed under the incredible force. Others were bypassed completely as the water rushed through river valleys and low-lying areas. It became painfully clear that the existing defenses were no longer enough. Japan faced a difficult choice: accept that future tsunamis would always bring catastrophic destruction, or attempt something the world had never seen before. The decision that followed was extraordinary. Instead of rebuilding the coastline the way it had been, Japan decided to redesign it. The government approved one of the largest coastal engineering projects in modern history. The goal was simple to describe, but incredibly difficult to achieve. Build a system capable of reducing the impact of future tsunamis across hundreds of kilometers of vulnerable coastline. This wasn't one single wall standing uninterrupted from one end of the country to the other. Instead, it became a vast network of reinforced seawalls, flood barriers, gates, elevated embankments, and protective structures stretching across roughly 400 kilometers of Japan's northeastern Pacific coast. Each section was carefully designed for its location. Some walls were only a few meters high. Others rose more than 14 meters above sea level. Many extended deep underground, anchored into solid rock, to resist the enormous force of incoming water. The engineering challenge was staggering. Every coastline is different. Some areas contain steep cliffs, others are flat fishing villages. Some include rivers, ports, highways, and railways that all had to remain connected while still being protected. Engineers had to design barriers that could survive earthquakes first, and then withstand a tsunami immediately afterward. Few construction projects in history have faced such demanding requirements. The cost would reach tens of billions of dollars. Construction would take years. Entire coastlines would be transformed forever. Supporters believed the walls would save countless lives. Critics argued they would block ocean views, damage tourism, and separate communities from the sea that had shaped their culture for centuries. The debate divided towns all across Japan. But construction continued. Massive cranes arrived. Concrete poured day and night. Steel reinforcements disappeared beneath enormous foundations. Little by little, the impossible wall began to rise. And yet, even after spending billions of dollars, one question still remained. Can any wall truly stop the full power of the ocean? As construction continued across Japan's northeastern coast, the scale of the project became almost impossible to comprehend. This wasn't simply a line of concrete. It was an entirely new coastal defense system. Every section had a specific purpose. Some walls were designed to absorb the first impact of an incoming tsunami. Others were built to slow the water before it reached towns. Floodgates protected river mouths, where tsunami waves often travel far inland. Roads were raised to act as secondary barriers. Hillsides were reinforced. Entire neighborhoods were rebuilt on higher ground. Japan wasn't relying on one solution. It was creating multiple layers of protection. Engineers understood something very important. No wall is indestructible. If a tsunami is large enough, water can flow over almost any barrier. So instead of trying to stop every wave completely, the goal was to reduce its speed, lower its height, and buy people precious time to escape. Even a delay of a few minutes can save thousands of lives. That philosophy shaped every decision. The walls were built using enormous amounts of reinforced concrete. Many extend several meters below the surface, anchored into solid bedrock to resist both earthquakes and erosion. Special drainage systems allow rainwater to flow out while preventing seawater from rushing in. At ports, giant steel floodgates can be closed when tsunami warnings are issued. Some of these gates weigh hundreds of tons and are operated automatically or remotely. Behind the walls, evacuation routes were redesigned. New bridges connected higher ground. Emergency shelters were constructed on elevated platforms. Schools, hospitals, and public buildings were relocated whenever possible. Communities practiced evacuation drills again and again. Because Japan knew that infrastructure alone would never be enough. people also had to know exactly what to do. Technology became another critical layer of defense. Japan operates one of the world's most advanced earthquake and tsunami warning systems. Hundreds of seismic sensors constantly monitor movement beneath the Earth's surface. The moment a major earthquake is detected, computers estimate its location, depth, and magnitude within seconds. If a tsunami is likely, warnings are immediately transmitted across the country. Television broadcasts are interrupted. Mobile phones sound emergency alerts. Radio stations switch to warning messages. Loudspeakers along the coast begin announcing evacuation orders. Even trains can stop automatically before the strongest shaking arrives. Speed is everything. Every second matters. The warning system doesn't prevent the tsunami, but it gives people the one thing they desperately need. Time. The reconstruction effort also changed the way entire towns were designed. In many coastal communities, residential neighborhoods were moved to higher elevations. Some areas that had once been filled with homes became parks or open buffer zones. These spaces can absorb some of the force of floodwaters while reducing damage to buildings. In certain locations, forests were planted along the shoreline. Although trees cannot stop a massive tsunami, they can slow debris and reduce erosion during smaller events. Everything worked together. Walls, floodgates, elevated roads, warning systems, evacuation towers. Higher ground, each layer increased the chances of survival. But not everyone agreed with the massive seawalls. For generations, the sea had been at the center of daily life. Fishing villages depended on direct access to the water. Families had watched the sunrise over the Pacific Ocean every morning. Now in some places, enormous concrete walls stood between people and the coastline. Some residents compared them to prison walls. Others worried about tourism. Visitors once came to enjoy beautiful ocean views. Now, parts of the coastline were hidden behind concrete barriers taller than many buildings. Environmental experts also raised concerns. Coastal ecosystems naturally change over time. Beaches shift. Sand moves. Marine habitats evolve. Large artificial structures can alter these natural processes. Scientists continue studying how these walls affect wildlife, sediment movement, and coastal environments over the long term. The debate continues today. But many survivors see the walls differently. For people who experienced the tsunami firsthand, the memory remains vivid. They remember the sound, the shaking, the sirens, the water. They know exactly what is at stake. To them, the walls represent something much more important than concrete. They represent another chance. Meanwhile, engineers around the world began studying Japan's approach. Countries vulnerable to tsunamis, hurricanes, and storm surges paid close attention. Climate change is increasing the risks facing many coastlines. Rising sea levels allow storm waves to reach farther inland. Extreme weather events are becoming more destructive in many regions. Governments everywhere are searching for better ways to protect coastal communities. Japan's experience offers valuable lessons, not because the walls are perfect, but because they demonstrate what is possible when engineering, planning, and disaster preparedness work together. The project also revealed an important truth. There is no single solution to natural disasters. Technology alone cannot eliminate risk. Neither can concrete. Preparation saves lives. Education saves lives. Fast warnings save lives. Smart city planning saves lives. The walls are only one part of a much larger system. Even today, construction and improvements continue along parts of Japan's coastline. Engineers regularly inspect the structures. New research helps improve future designs. Computer simulations test how different tsunami scenarios might affect each region. Lessons from every earthquake lead to new safety measures. Japan understands that nature never stops evolving. Neither can its defenses. Yet one question still remains unanswered. What happens if an even larger tsunami strikes? Could a wave stronger than the one in 2011 overwhelm these massive barriers? Or has Japan finally built a defense capable of protecting future generations? The answer is more complicated than most people realize. The truth is, Japan's engineers have never claimed that the walls are unstoppable. In fact, they openly acknowledge something that surprises many people. No structure can guarantee complete protection against every tsunami. Nature always has the potential to produce something larger than anything humans have planned for. That may sound discouraging, but it reflects the philosophy behind Japan's entire disaster strategy. The goal has never been to eliminate risk. The goal is to reduce it as much as possible. A tsunami that once would have reached a town in minutes may now arrive later and with less force. That extra time can mean the difference between life and death. It allows emergency responders to act. It allows families to reach higher ground. It allows hospitals, schools, and businesses to activate emergency plans. Sometimes, just a few additional minutes can save thousands of lives. That is the true value of the wall. Its success should not be measured by whether water reaches the land. It should be measured by how many lives remain protected. Since the devastating events of 2011, Japan has continued strengthening every part of its disaster response system. Schools regularly conduct evacuation drills. Children learn from an early age how to respond when earthquake alarms sound. Communities hold emergency exercises throughout the year. Families prepare evacuation bags containing food, water, medicine, flashlights, radios, and essential supplies. Many people know exactly where they will go if another major tsunami warning is issued. This culture of preparedness has become one of Japan's greatest strengths. Technology continues to improve as well. Scientists constantly monitor seismic activity beneath the Pacific Ocean. Networks of underwater sensors detect changes in pressure that may indicate the formation of a tsunami. Satellites provide additional monitoring of weather and ocean conditions. Artificial intelligence is beginning to help analyze massive amounts of seismic data faster than ever before. Every improvement increases the speed and accuracy of warnings. Engineers are also developing stronger construction materials. New types of concrete resist cracking more effectively. Advanced reinforcement techniques improve structural strength during powerful earthquakes. Computer modeling allows engineers to simulate extreme tsunami impacts long before construction even begins. Every lesson learned becomes part of the next generation of coastal defenses. Around the world, other countries are paying attention. Indonesia, Chile, the United States, New Zealand, and many other nations exposed to powerful ocean hazards have studied Japan's experience. Each country faces different challenges, different coastlines, different populations, different budgets. No single design works everywhere. But one lesson applies almost universally. Waiting until after a disaster is always more expensive than preparing before one happens. Japan chose preparation. And it came at an enormous cost. The complete reconstruction effort following the 2011 disaster required hundreds of billions of dollars. The coastal defense projects alone cost tens of billions. For many countries, investments of that size are extremely difficult. Yet supporters argue that rebuilding entire cities after repeated disasters would ultimately cost even more. The debate continues. Some people believe the walls provide essential protection. Others believe more emphasis should be placed on relocation and natural coastal restoration. Reasonable people continue to disagree. But almost everyone agrees on one point. The tsunami of 2011 changed Japan forever. It transformed engineering, emergency planning, urban design, and the relationship between people and the sea. Today, if you travel along parts of Japan's northeastern coast, you'll see stretches of towering seawalls following the shoreline. From above, they appear almost endless. Some sections blend into the landscape. Others stand prominently against the ocean. To someone seeing them for the first time, they can seem almost unbelievable. Many visitors are surprised they had never heard about them before. Perhaps that's because these walls were never built to become famous. They were built to protect lives. Unlike monuments that celebrate victory or skyscrapers designed to attract attention, these structures exist for a quieter purpose. Their greatest success is measured by disasters that never become headlines, by towns that remain standing, by families that return home safely, by children who grow up without experiencing the tragedy of 2011 again. And perhaps that's why so few people outside Japan know their story. They aren't tourist attractions. They aren't world wonders. They're emergency defenses. Silent guardians stretching for hundreds of kilometers along one of the most dangerous coastlines on Earth. But even these extraordinary walls remind us of something larger. Human engineering has achieved remarkable things. We've crossed oceans, built cities that touch the clouds, sent spacecraft beyond our solar system, and constructed barriers capable of resisting incredible forces of nature. Yet the ocean still commands respect. Earthquakes cannot be stopped. Tectonic plates will continue moving beneath the Earth's surface. Tsunamis will continue to occur. Nature always writes the final chapter. What humanity can do is prepare. Learn, adapt, and build smarter with every generation. Japan's 400-kilometer coastal defense system is more than concrete and steel. It is a symbol of resilience, a reminder that even after unimaginable tragedy, people can rebuild. Not by pretending disasters will never happen again, but by refusing to surrender to them. So the next time you look at a calm coastline, remember this: beneath that peaceful horizon, immense forces are constantly at work. Most of the time, we never notice them. But Japan never forgets. That is why it built one of the most ambitious coastal defense systems in human history. Not because it believed it could conquer the ocean, but because protecting even one more life is always worth the effort. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more incredible stories about the world's greatest engineering achievements, science, and the mysteries of our planet.